My name is Father Mike Sowards. I'm the rector of St. James Episcopal Church. I spent 15 years in the Navy, retired as a Chief Petty Officer.
My name's John Crocker. I was in the Army Medical Corps.
My name is Rick Alexander. I was in the Air Force from 1966 to 1970. Currently a member of the Trinity Episcopal Church in Bluebell. I've been an Episcopalian all my life.
My name is Patrick Houston, although I typically go by Pat Houston. I was in the U.S. Army, National Guard, and Army Reserve from 1968 through the early 70s. My rank was E5, which probably most of you know, that's the lowest rank of sergeant. And I go to Trinity Episcopal, Solebury, Pennsylvania.
I wish civilians would understand that we're voluntary indentured servants. And I put it in that really hard to hear way because we sign a contract that says you can tell us where to sleep, how to dress, what even some of our private things can be or not be. You tell us where to go and what to do and how to do it. And we don't really have the choice.
On my second spot I was in the military at Fort Benning, Georgia, I found myself sharing a barracks with 5 white guys from Texas and 35 black guys from Brooklyn and the Bronx. And we all learned so much from each other. And it was just a great experience to work with people from totally different backgrounds and be able to help each other and perform cohesively and learn from each other.
I think that especially during the Vietnam period, civilians were angry about the war. They were angry at our political leaders for allowing us to get into that war. But mostly, and what was most unfortunate, is that they kind of took it out on the GIs.
When the USS Stark was hit, right, and the 36 sailors were killed, 3 of those are some of my best friends, right? And so I was picked by the Navy to do casualty assistance. So in other words, I worked with the chaplains to inform families, that their loved ones have gone. It was an experience. It was a tough experience, but it was a good experience too, because I saw the spiritual aspect of that.
When I went out the door of the C-130, I saw red smoke in the sky, which means the jump has officially just been canceled because the winds are too dangerous for a safe jump. The last thing I remember are my feet touching the ground, and the next thing I remember was waking up on an Army medevac. And apparently what had happened, according to my buddies, before I got my canopy collapsed, a huge gust of wind grabbed it and yanked me back up in the air and then yanked me straight back, and the next place I landed was on the back of my head.
A sailor had been killed, probably in Vietnam, since I was serving during Vietnam, and he qualified to be interred at Arlington Cemetery. So the family, I think, was from Ohio. So my responsibility was to meet the body at the airport. And I remember the casket being covered in a flag. And then I had to meet the family and make sure that they got to their hotel and that they understood what was going to be happening the next day.
Well, after the service, I did have to write some history of somebody who died, and it's like writing a condolence letter. It's very, very tough to do, and to get through that. Was confirmed in the Episcopal Church at 14, and here I am at 77. So the church has meant a lot to me for my whole life.
Well, I'd say my faith came from my late wife, more so than anything else. She was associated with St. David's Church in Radnor, Pennsylvania, and encouraged me to attend services there, which I did. And I found a great deal of pleasure and enjoyment in that. It also supported the earlier part of my life as a child when I went to Holy Trinity Church in Westchester and sang in the choir there. And I loved singing in the choir, and I loved the services. And then when I met my wife-to-be and encouraged to join St. David's, I loved the services and the minister in particular, Frank Allen. He was so engaging, and he made you feel welcome and made you feel comfortable. And
the experience I had there was one of accepting people's differences, even celebrating their differences, and I just found it a very enlightening experience. Quite a few years later, we became Episcopalians when, in one town where we lived, we didn't find a Presbyterian church that seemed to suit us, and a friend recommended what was a mission Episcopalian church, and we found a home there and have been Episcopalian since.
My service in the military really gave me a deeper, more profound appreciation for my spirituality, for my faith, and has really, some of the experiences that I had while I was in the military really allowed me to look at faith differently than I feel like I would have otherwise.
I know for me, the biggest thing was getting that church newsletter every month in the mail. Because my mom might forget to write me, or I might have, I might not have, because this was back in the time of letters, I might not have communication from anyone else, but I could count on the church newsletter arriving.
As we celebrated All Saints' Day at Trinity, Father Rob had suggested that any of us who felt compelled should dress up as our favorite saint. I have a friend named Mike Martin. Mike was a conscientious objector during the Vietnam era, but despite that, volunteered to serve and served 13 months in the jungles of Vietnam as an unarmed combat medic, saving the lives of other soldiers. And so I dug out my old Army field jacket. I found my old jump boots and somehow squeezed my feet into them, and went to church dressed essentially in fatigues and boots, with a sign proclaiming that I was honoring Mike Martin, who I consider a modern-day saint for what he did. And it prompted a lot of discussion. A lot of people wanted to talk to me and the other veterans during the coffee hour about our experience, and people were so receptive to the idea that I was honoring my friend Mike.
The church as a whole can be a better support for veterans and their families by seeking to understand some of the experiences that veterans might go through that everyday people wouldn't necessarily experience, and just kind of meeting veterans where they are.
The church pretty much ignored the service for Vietnam for sure. Just ignore it. Wasn't the case with Afghanistan and Iran, Iraq. They did a much better job, and this program too is a really good start.
I just credit the longevity of my life to my faith.
I just think it gave me kind of a grounding and a belief, not only in myself but in other people, and an interest in helping other people and allowing them to help me when needed.
Just be supportive of the families and the people themselves